Now I'd like to talk about transitions to kind of end our lesson on argument structure here. I have it kind of broken into four categories, but I'm sure that as a younger writer, when you've heard the word transitions, it's kind of been isolated to two of those, which would be the words and phrases or sentences. Either your teacher maybe gave you a printout with a list of transition words, or you had an outline where there was a spot for a transition sentence, and those might be a little bit more familiar. So I want to talk about all of these, some as review and some as things you may not have thought about in terms of transitions. So the first is transitional words and phrases. So that's the list I mentioned, that list of words like regardless, however, additionally, that you might have seen in the past or received in the past, words that you kind of stick at the beginning of a sentence, throw in a comma, and move on to kind of build that natural flow we use when we speak. So that might be a little bit more familiar. And as readers, we can see those pretty clearly because they're offset and usually with punctuation so that they stand out a little bit. The second kind of transition I have on here is maybe a little bit more unfamiliar, which is the transition into evidence. And in the past, we've talked about evidence integration and why it's important to, have some sort of lead in, to paraphrase the evidence, to semi-paraphrase the evidence. And that's because without it, we lose that cohesiveness and that transition is broken. So when we're looking at transitions in other people's writing, we can also talk about how they transition into another person's words, how they transition into an alternate perspective. That's another way of talking about transitions. The third point is those transitional sentences. Oftentimes, either at the end of a paragraph or the beginning of the next one. I don't know why it's an argument. Some people say it goes one place or the other place. It doesn't really matter. But a transitional sentence is an entire sentence that's meant to kind of bridge two larger sections and kind of create that movement as you're moving between main ideas within a paper or an essay. Similarly, let's talk about transitional sections. Transitional sections are maybe multiple paragraphs, maybe even multiple pages where they're kind of building a bridge between two larger concepts. A lot of times when skillful writers write essays, I would say most of the time, they don't write in 5-paragraph essay format. Instead, they write in many, many paragraphs, some short paragraphs, some long paragraphs. But when they're moving between ideas, there is still usually either a sentence or more commonly a section of words that's building a bridge between two major claims that that person is making in their essay. So it's a matter of kind of expanding our definition of transitions beyond just words and phrases to really think about transitions into evidence, think about transitions between body paragraphs, and like I said just now, to transition between sections with a few paragraphs or a few lines that kind of slowly build that bridge.